Well, I've been in the thick of it myself for the past month, and I can assure you this is not me being a sore loser. As you say, I did stand for Change UK in the South West. But how much of the winning Brexit Party's triumph was really about Brexit? The 32% of the electorate who voted for Nigel Farage's company did so, I contend, not because they were passionate about an unconditional no-deal departure from the EU, but because they wanted to give everyone a bloody nose. Remainers, Tories, Labour, metropolitan elites, Brussels, bankers, London, anyone and anything who's been deaf to their howl of rage from 2016. The Brexit Party's success has weakened the two-party lock on British politics, but not fatally. Arguably, it could even lead to a Remain coalition victory in the end, if it causes Corbyn to commit to a second referendum. The Brexit Party victory was not so much a political earthquake, but a cultural revolution. Comrades.
When I watched the results from the EU elections, I thought I was living in some kind of parallel universe, because in my head, when I looked at the results, I interpreted it as a very clear win for the Brexit Party, a very clear sign that Brexit parties had overall a majority in the referendum. Then when I started watching news channels and commentators, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I was seeing this is a victory for Remain. Remain parties, if you add them all up, they've come better. If you leave the Tories out and it was absolutely ridiculous. And I don't know what it's going to take for people in the establishment, if I want to call it that, to understand that people wanted Brexit in the majority, and they still do. And you say, was this a reflection of Brexit, or was it a reflection of just wanting to give everyone a bloody nose? People voted for the Brexit Party, I'm sure out of frustration, but largely out of frustration that democracy is not being followed through. And it is that what people are unhappy about. And I had the pleasure of listening to this young man this morning, and you were talking to a Tory baroness on the phone, and it infuriated me.
Patience Week.
Yeah, she was on the telephone explaining that somehow it is still a Remain country, or it is a Remain country. People that voted Brexit are essentially not comfortable in their own skin, and it is infuriating.
Yes, I can see that. There are two things I want to pick up there. First of all, let's do the vote count. The hard Brexit parties, if you add together UKIP and the Brexit Party, come to 34%. If you roll together Lib Dems, Greens, Change UK, then they came to 34%.
Please don't do
so
this.
I agree.
But this is what I cannot understand.
No, I just wanted to give the viewers a chance to understand that tally. But you're right, Brexit Party was now in a way. But what did it mean?
What people are doing, Rachel, it is literally embarrassing. You see people on the telly, and they're adding all the... I've never seen mathematics like it in my life.
Thank you, Nick. Yes. The Brexit Party is really the Nigel Party, isn't it? So were people actually voting for a no deal?
Because you couldn't stop the sneering, could you?
No,
because
wait.
Just in your introduction, how much was it about Brexit? What don't you understand, Rachel? It's called the Brexit Party. That's quite a clue, I would suggest. You called it a company because it has a different setup. What it is absolutely right. It represents an absolute fury and a yearning you can now get from one point of England to the end of England on Brexit council land all the way through. That is the way the country is going. And this lunatic idea, and then I will yield this, that Michelle says, this is like, I don't know how much you follow football, I know Greg does. This is like saying, if you take all the goals that were scored agaginst Manchester City, they didn't win the bloody Premiership.
You
lost.
OK, Nick, if I would have a bet with you.
Yeah.
I think I lost the last one.
Yeah.
Never mind.
You lose most of them, that's why I like betting with you, Nick. But I think what will happen now is we will have a second referendum. I think there will be a second referendum, and I think that Remain will win.
On what basis should
on
we
the
have
basis
a referendum?
No, I'm not saying because we can't. You're now seeing people who in Parliament who are saying we can't decide this. The only way they decide this is put it back to the people. So we either have an election or we have a referendum. I don't think any of the parties are going to go. I don't think either Labour or Tories are going to go for an election at the moment.
I don't think that's right, actually.
Can I ask you to
you take the bet then.
Nick ignored what I feel was the most important point, which was that the people who voted Brexit still want Brexit to happen, but without giving any instruction as to what sort of Brexit they want. Is it no deal? Do they really want no deal?
But that's what you have to offer them.
Exactly.
But you see, this is a kind of very SW1 London conversation. Most people who voted Brexit don't really care very much. They basically want to leave the European Union, and they want things to be as economically as little different as possible, consistent with being outside the political
Cake
structure.
and eat it.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's...
But that's not available, Trevor.
Well, you say it's not available, but let's remember, all the things that are happening now, if we'd had this conversation a year ago, everybody would have been going, ah, no, that's nonsense. Actually, what I think is probably going to happen is something completely different to this. And forgive me, Rachel, the joker in the pack here is your brother, who... And I can't tell you how much it's like chewing ground glass for me to say this. I think he may emerge as both victor, Tory party leader, leadership, and also, because of his capacity to have amnesia about everything he promised, he may turn out to be the guy who says, you know what, I'm going to get a deal. It doesn't look anything like what I've been promising for the last 3 years, but you're going to buy it from me. And actually, he may be the person who gets us through this.
Can I just say, I think you're right in the sense
I mean, I hate that idea.
I think that the
not
government...
my party, not my candidate, but that's, if you were looking at it objectively, that's where we may end up. And which politician...
As Theresa May predicted.
What politician on the UK landscape is capable of eating his own words, swilling it down with a glass of champagne and having everybody cheering?
I want you to... out of your mouth, Trevor.
That's not normally Paul
Mr.
Roger
B.
champagne.
Johnson.
Yes, Nick.
What makes you think that there's in any way the end to the two-party system? This isn't a... I've been hearing that it's the end of the two-party system for the last goodness knows how many decades.
Well, I
when
mean,
the general election comes around, everybody goes tribal again? No?
Well, you're right to say that the UKIP won the last European parliamentary elections, and then in the following general election, the two-party system took 80% of the vote. So, yes, but it doesn't mean it's going to happen again.
That's because they got, was it 4 million votes or something? But because we've got first past the post, they ended up with one seat. So if you just have a quick... I've got a statistic about who would stick with the Brexit Party and who wouldn't. So if you look at this, for example, half of Labour voters who switched to the Brexit Party have said that they will stay there in the next general election, and it goes on that 2/3 of Tory voters who switched there said that they will stay. So I'm not sure that it's going to be as simple as people just having a protest vote and then reverting. I think what will happen, I would like Nigel Farage's party to drive through some form of proportional representation.
But they don't have any votes to do that. I mean, I agree with you. It would be wonderful to have proportional representation. I think the present system in this country, first past the post, doesn't make any sense. But the people who have got control, both the Tories and Labour, they're never going to go for
But it's interesting times now, though, isn't it? They're not in a usual political climate. Something's got to change, and they themselves must concede that.
The thing that matters most to most of them is keeping their seat. And they're going to keep their seat by continuing the current system.
Just talking about being victorious at the elections, what was, for you, Rachel, what was the high point of your campaigning? Or what was the low point of your campaigning?
Everything was a high point.
Really?
Yes. I've learned how to speak fluent politician. I'm going to remember. I know about hammering core messages.
OK, listen to it. As Hugo Rifkin wrote in The Times brilliantly, Change UK managed to pick a fight in an empty bar and lose to the furniture, which I think is a brilliant line.
Sounds a bit like you.
Well, indeed. And this was a brilliant moment from one of your Change UK colleagues.
Can you just look at your hands, please? You're really good. You're doing that ever so well. That's the best I've seen it done. Brilliant. That's it. It's there. That's the answer to this. It's in your hands.
Rachel, can we just find out where you're going next?
Which party do you want me to destroy next?
The Tories, I think.
Tory party.
No.
I'm not sure about that.
But visit the Labour Party
first. You want me to come to the Labour Party? Any more bids? I'm going to go to the Brexit Party.
Well, I'm astonished that you know how to hammer home the key messages of Change UK. I have no idea what the key messages are. I don't think you lot do.
Look at your hands.
Time for a change
Give them a wash.
with the pledge.